And welcome back to Blue Shirts Buzz, where we talk everything New York Rangers. I'm your host, Matt Piscazzi, with my wonderful co-host, John Horton. Definitely check out our Twitter at BlueBuzz26, and let's hop right into today's episode. So I know we didn't have an upload earlier this week, but just with the schedule of the games and everything, we thought it would make a little bit more sense to push to the end of the week here. So we had two games to talk about. If we did have a beginning of the week episode, we'd be talking a little bit about the Maple Leafs game, and then we had the Canadiens game literally Tuesday night. So we'd kind of have the same conversation on this episode. So we kind of figured it'd be a little bit better to get both games towards the end of the week here and also preview a crazy big matchup that is coming up tonight, Thursday, the 24th. Of course, when you guys are listening to this, you'll know the results of that game. Of course, the rematch of the Eastern Conference Finals between the Rangers and the Panthers. But before we get into all of that, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well because we have two New York teams that are absolutely thrilling to watch. One right at the top of the mountain, hopefully can climb to and put the flag up top for the New
Yes,
York
sir.
Yankees World Series. That'll be hopeful. And then New York Rangers, of course, we're only we'll be 7 games through, but looking incredibly well.
Yeah.
Start to finish from the first line to the fourth line looks very solid. The
Hmm.
depth pieces are finally coming into play. Now the key is to stay healthy. That is we got some prime suspects of Philip Hedl, Capo Caco, Ryan Lindgren, Jimmy Vesey. Now, for some reason, this is 2 years in a row. He's been battling some injuries.
Hmm.
So Lafreniere had upper body injury last couple days ago, but he played but didn't contribute any points or anything. He looked a little off here and there. So I think
He
the
did. I
upper
think he
body
did. He have
was.
a post though. I want to say he hit a
He did
post.
have a
And he
post.
had a couple good shots.
He
Like
did have a post. Yes.
he had a little bit. I think you could tell it was like bothering him, maybe like a little bit. He just, I don't know. I feel like he didn't have that step that he's been having, especially like to start this year and towards the end of last year, like that kind of like that extra kind of energy and that jump.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I'm sure we'll see. I think it was probably just the lingering effects of that upper body injury, like you were talking about. But he is off to a really good start. I mean, 6 points in 6 games. What's not to love about how he's played so far, right? I mean, he's
Yeah.
been
No,
incredibly impressive.
he's
And
been
like we said, up and
impressive.
down this lineup, we've seen a lot of really great stuff. But
Yeah. Currently, the Rangers again only 6, 7 games, but
mm,
still they lead the NHL in goals for percentage and shots on goal per 60 minutes at 5v5, which again has been this team's kryptonite for the past couple of years. It's been the main critique from outside reporters, inside reporters, and fans.
yep,
So. And I think the main contributor to that is the healthy third line, and
yeah,
you really need our third line has been playing very well, especially against the Canadiens game. Now we'll get into that as well. Not to
mm,
take anything away from their performance, they played incredibly well, but the Canadiens were pretty awful. They were pretty bad. But even in games where they haven't contributed point wise, they're still generating other aspects for other players. Um, but yeah, Lafreniere has been playing well. I heard with Elliot Friedman speaking that he's always got to put these little devils in my ears, which is annoying, but he knows his stuff. And there's been talks of how Alexi Lafreniere wants to play this year out before signing, but I think Drury is knocking on his door every day or every week, trying to get
mm,
something done, and probably the 8-year extension,
yeah,
probably around that $7 to $8 million a year. And Elliot Friedman was thinking that potentially him and some stuff I've heard with Igor, but that won't matter for now. But like maybe he wouldn't want to do 8 years because that would take him, if he were to play out to the 8th year, that would take him to his 31st, birthday
mm,
seasons. And maybe he would only want to do 5 years or something like that. So that way, when he's in his prime, even more, or
mm,
he's not in his prime yet, but when he's in his prime, excuse me, my throat is killing me. When he's in his prime, he can negotiate a higher, AAV.
yeah.
And I hate Elliot for pointing that out, but maybe that's not the case. Maybe that's not the case because we've
He
seen a
has a
lot
good
of other
point
young players
though.
do it. Yeah.
Well, I think the thing that and like we've thrown this around how like specifically like I think about like Slavkovsky, a couple other names that I'm totally blanking on, but we did see a couple of those 7x7, 8x8 kind of
Yeah,
they
Matty
were on.
Benier. Yeah.
Thank you. The perfect example. That's what I'm thinking of, where those are like the first kind of like big contract they're getting, right? And we're seeing those around that 7x7, 8x8. I think that's because of the length. Now, like if you threw them like a 4 or 5, I don't think they're getting 7 or 8 mil a year. But I think giving them that money, we're sitting here and we're saying that's a little bit of an overpayment. But then when you look at how the cap is extrapolating out and it's going up, and 8 years from now, the cap is going to be significantly higher. So it makes sense for a team to commit to a young player like that and say, like, okay, we might be paying you a little bit more upfront right now, but that's going to look a lot better in 4 or 5 years. Whereas if we paid you a little bit less and gave you a 4 or 5 year contract, we're going to be in a situation 4 or 5 years from now where the cap is up here and you want a contract that is up there to match it. So I think there's a little bit to be said about that kind of 7x7, 8x8. Like, the more I've been like thinking about it, but I also, like, I don't necessarily love the idea of committing to a play like an 8 year. I mean, it's just, that's a long time. And like, okay, Laugh had a really great year last year. It looks like he's going to really kind of, start to show some really good signs consistently every single game, grow and get better, be a star in this league, right? Like, that all sounds really great. But like, Kako was the number 2 overall pick. We thought he was going to be wonderful. And now he's going to be a bottom 6 forward for probably most of his career. So you don't know what's going to happen when, with who, and why, and how. So I honestly, like, I get the trepidation about like that 4 or 5 year, because then at the end of that, like, he's going to get a bigger contract. But I would kind of rather have that, just because I think it gives us a little bit more, I don't want to say flexibility, but it gives us more options. It gives us more to work with. I think it gives us a little bit more of like a standing. I think it gives us a little bit more leverage, but we'll see. But like, I doubt that Laugh signs a contract in season, though. I mean, if you're Laugh's camp, if you're Laugh, well, why would you? I mean, unless this team is coming to you with like an 8x8 and you're happy with that, or if they're willing to give you like a 6x8 or something like that, and you're happy with that and you want to take it, sure. But I just, if you're Laugh, why? Because if he hedges his bets on himself and he just gets better and better and produces even more than he did last year, like we're expecting him to, then he could get, like you were saying, that 4 or 5 in a range, that 4 or 5 years in a range that's a little bit higher. So kind of sucks organizationally with the cap issues that we're going to be coming up on, but I understand it. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if we see Laugh kind of push it throughout the year and wait until either, close to the end of the year or the end of the year. Just curious what you're thinking about this whole Laugh situation, though.
Huh. Yeah, actually, that's not bad. That's actually not a bad point to put out with on the New York Rangers organizational side. Um, it's definitely important to hedge yourself in the event he does turn into a Kako. I mean, something I think about a lot too, and like I understand it's a team sport. You can't take that away. Like, there's really only a few players who can generate a ton of offense by themselves. Like Connor McDavid by himself, Sidney Crosby by himself. I mean, there's even an argument to say that maybe if it wasn't for Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl wouldn't produce as much as he does, even though I know now they play on separate lines. And, I think Leon Draisaitl speaks for himself now. But, I have a fear that in 2 years, if we don't re-sign Panarin, which probably won't, honestly, and Lafreniere loses Panarin on his line, and Panarin has always been an insane points generating player.
Yeah.
Will Laf's production plummet? Will he be able to carry himself? Will he
True.
prove that? I expect some kind of dip in general, just because you're losing a star player on your line. Like, that's just like if
And also,
Crosby
like,
didn't get to play
who's
with
gonna go there?
Malkin, and yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think hedging is fair, and yeah, I don't think it'll happen in season. I think we're gonna have a lot of headaches this offseason, but hopefully we'll have the cup in our hands, so the headaches really kind of won't matter.
Hey,
At
it'll
least
make you
in
feel
the
a little bit better,
long
right?
term. Yeah, no, it will. So, but yeah, looking at what we haven't covered since, trying to think
Well, we
here.
haven't covered a word from our wonderful sponsors yet.
No, we haven't either. We
Might
could
be a
cover
segue
that.
into our second half of the episode. A little on the earlier side, but I think nice little segue. The second half, we'll get into the games that we had kind of highlighted. If you want to get us started with DraftKings.
Yes, I would love to get us started with DraftKings Sportsbook, one of today's sponsors. Speaking of the quest for the Stanley Cup, it started a couple weeks ago, and now that the puck's dropping on the 24-25 season, you can get in on all the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Incredibly easy for new time bettors and players. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win by going to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select the team that you want, and place your first bet. And if you're new to DraftKings, new customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That is by downloading the DraftKings Sportsbook app and using the code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
And there's nothing quite like the experience of a live NHL game. The chill of the ice, the sound of a big hit or a slap shot. Every year I try and go to as many games as possible. This year I can't wait to get to more games, and with Game Time, it'll be easier than ever. Game Time has tickets for all sorts of live sporting and music events, not just the NHL. And with Game Time picks, you can get the best deal in the shortest time. Right now, there's a ton of deals on there, so you and your family and your friends go check them out. Enjoy. Game Time always has wonderful deals on there. Definitely check them out. You can download the app, buy tickets right from your phone. Game Time has great features like panoramic seat views to make sure you love the seats before you buy them, the Game Time lowest price guarantee, or their ticket coverage that provides the most flexible customer service policy in the industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? It's game time, baby. And thank you to our wonderful, wonderful sponsors, DraftKings and Game Time, of course. We are always so grateful to be a part of the official Hockey Podcast Network and get some wonderful word from our sponsors for you guys. But yeah, I did think that was a nice segue into, like you talked about, the games that we kind of highlighted, to start the episode here. We'll get into a little bit of discussion. For me, just really good stuff. I guess I'll give my quick kind of blurb about both games, and then maybe I'll get your thoughts about both as a whole, and if we want to dive into specific things. But when you look at this lineup, we've been getting scoring from up and down the lineup. I'm certainly more impressed by the 4-1 victory over the Leafs. That 7-2 win over the Canadiens is, of course, impressive. I mean, putting up 7 goals is always impressive. And the Canadiens, for as bad as they have been at times, and especially they were definitely not their best, losing 7-2, no team is at their best, but they have shown some signs of life to start the season here. I think they have some young pieces there. I don't think they're super far off. I also didn't think they were super far off last year though, and they ended up being awful. So I really don't know what to make of this team, but it's certainly less impressive than when you look at that win over the Leafs. I mean, we did a tremendous job. Igor did a tremendous job. I mean, defensively, there were certainly some mistakes made. I don't want to act like we played some airtight game. I mean, Igor had to make 34 saves, but he made 34 saves. And of course, Laff scored a goal to start off the scoring. Kreider had a goal, and then we had a couple empty netters as well. The scoreline is a little deceiving. It was really more of a 2-1 or a 3-1 because we did, of course, get 2 empty net goals at the end of the game there. But overall, it's just, I'm really impressed. I think still, there's some of the early season defensive woes. I think particularly because of the Ryan Lindgren thing is really, I think, something that's kind of hanging around the back of my mind. He looks slow. He looks afraid. Honestly, he looks kind of frail. It might need jaw surgery apparently. So for me, I'm a little worried about that. But we're able to kind of pick up the pieces. I think Mancini has been really, really good for us, and that was a huge revelation. I mean, him coming out in camp and balling and now playing really good minutes for us is huge for our depth at D. I mean, we waived Chad Riedel because of how well Mancini is playing. Mm-hmm. And so while I do think that there are still some defensive woes, I think that's something that we're going to figure out as the season goes on. And even with that being said, we're still putting up good defensive metrics. It's not like we're letting in 3-4 goals a game. I mean, like you had pointed out, our 5v5 metrics are really good so far. And specifically for me, and I know you'll highlight this as well, that third line, that is really what's been key to start this year. Obviously, we've seen the top guys perform when they need to, as well as that fourth line has been really solid when they've needed to. And any given night, that could be, any one of 6 different combinations. You really don't know what that's going to look like, but they've shown up and they've performed when they needed to. And that third line in particular, Kakko, Chytil, and Cooley have been just lights out. I mean, even when they're not putting up points, they're putting on pressure. They're keeping the puck in the offensive zone. The 3 of them are also getting a little bit more special teams time. I like that we're seeing the power play be a little bit more of a mixture as opposed to giving power play 1 a minute and 45 seconds. I like that we're seeing a little bit of that switch up. We're giving these young guys some chances, and they're capitalizing, and they've been really impressive. So far, really not a lot that I'm upset about. And I think that the things that we haven't done perfectly, we've done good enough to get by. And I think that we're going to get better in those areas, specifically defensively. That's something that I always like as the season goes on. I think you get better defensively as well. It's hard to start off the year, at full game speed and play solid defense every single minute. Right. And so I think that's something that will improve. And overall, if we can keep rolling like this is going to be a really promising season for us. And I mean, I'm not mad at virtually anything we're doing here. I'd be grasping at straws if I came on here and we're negative Nancy and had all sorts of bad stuff to say. Because quite frankly, there's really not a lot that we haven't done well. So I've been really happy, and I think that this game against the Panthers, which obviously you guys will know the result of, is going to be this is a real show and tell game for me. If this is how we want to play for the rest of the season, if we want to play this way consistently and assert ourselves as a top 3 team, top 4, 5, whatever that is, top team in this league that has the chance to go and win the cup this year, this game against the Panthers is going to be a big kind of show and tell spot, a big kind of nut up or shut up spot. And so I'm really excited to see how the game goes tonight. Obviously, you guys will know the result, but that's my spiel, and just excited. A lot of really exciting things to see, and I'm curious if there's any negative things you're thinking over there. I mean, there's always
No,
things we could
yeah, there's
find, but
always
it's not a lot,
yeah.
right? I mean, it's been impressive.
Yeah, no, there's really not a lot. I mean, the only thing would be like Lindgren. I think it could be a real issue. I mean, the one game we saw him back with Montreal, he looked like a skeleton. Very
Mm,
frail, very hurt, very out of place. And I really hope like we have the depth in D. Zach Jones can plug in for him with Mancini if needed, which is a blessing. Even though I think Zach Jones could play a little better, but again, he only played a few games.
mm,
Um, yeah, no, I think our third line depth in general is extremely important. We see that all the time in championship teams. Championship teams are built around third lines that are either defensively lights out or can add about 20 goals on the year total. They like you see that all the time. You saw that with even though the Bruins did lose in the first round, that was part of the reason they had the best record in league history now was because of their third line
mm.
showing up and producing points in a way that
The
sometimes
Stars
the
were a big one last
first
year
two.
too.
Yeah,
We
Stars were a
talked
big
about that a
one.
lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
their second and third lines were massive last year.
Yes, and that's what you need. Like, you can't just have 2 of 4 lines good or even
Mm,
1 of 4 lines good, which is kinda how it felt last year a little bit, and having Riley Smith helps. He's been looking
yeah.
pretty well. He's been looking pretty good. He had a great steal in the Canadiens game. He's been looking sharp. And the way that the third line in particular played against Montreal with Kako having 3 points and Hedl having 2 goals, beating up on bad teams like that is important to show the
Yeah.
synergy of that line. And I wish we knew the outcome of the Florida game tonight. I do expect to win because Florida's been a little shaky, but it's going to
Yeah.
be, and they also are missing Barkov, which is huge. But
Mm,
that will be a good test for that third line. If they can get a point or two, or even just hold their line to no points and really play good, sound hockey, I think it'll, like you said, it'll be good to show the consistency for the whole year. I mean, they got to stay healthy, they got to rotate well,
mm,
and I think, no, the only concerns that will really bite us moving forward, and I've talked to other Ranger fans about it and other people I know, is defensively we could, like nothing's glaring right now, but there's some times where we get lucky and, against really, really solid teams, these stupid like pinching too early or out of place plays or bad shifts. That's when you get caught with your pants down. That's when Igor gets out to dry. And I think if we can clean it up now early on in the season, and which makes sense to some, there's new defensive pairs for the first time in a
mm,
long time. Um, you know, Fox is Fox. He's playing with Miller, which is really interesting to see. Mainly, Truba's Truba. He's playing better, but like there's a lot of times watching him where it's like Jesus, and I
yeah.
don't think that'll change. When it comes to Miller, I think he's been good, but he's been making a lot of mental mistakes recently in the early season, pinching too early, out of positioning himself,
Mm,
thinking more offensively than defensively. Which if you want to do that, at least put the points up as well. Mancini's been great. Jones looked a little lost at times, which is why he's been scratched, the odd man out, unfortunately. But that
mm,
could change with Lindgren being 1 foot in the grave, as it seems,
yeah.
unfortunately. So,
Sadly.
yeah, sadly. So, no, like, yeah, can't really nitpick too many things. I would just say, like, things to watch out for and be wary of would be some of those defensive woes and miscues. But because that could be the that could be the deciding factor against really, really solid teams in this league. Coming up, we have the Panthers, of course, Anaheim Ducks, and the Washington Capitals. I expect to win against the Panthers. If we lose, not really going to be all that mad, unless it's a
Mhm.
blowout, of course. Anaheim, I'm expecting a win. And Washington's been a little fiery lately, so that could be 50-50. I would still like to expect a win,
Yeah.
but they've
Well, I
been,
think they're going to be mad that we knocked them out in 4 too. I mean,
yeah, that too. But
after
I think
sweeping them,
Washington,
right?
yeah, I think Washington's a team that's still rallying behind Ovechkin, trying to break the record. He's 38 goals away, 39 goals away. And also, they're a team that'll be like really good for maybe the first 2 months of the year, and then they'll just collapse because they just can't keep up with everybody else. But um, yeah, no, it's just been good. It's been exciting. It shows how good the team is when everyone's healthy, when all the pieces are
Yeah.
in place that we expect, that Drury put together. And year two with Laviolette is pretty good, and
Yeah.
it's important to see. And I think a thing that helps, which is a little sad, and adds to the stress that this is kind of the year, because after this year, if we don't win it, there's tons of contracts that are up. Not going to be able to
Yeah.
keep everybody. Everyone's a year older, blah blah blah. Same spiel that you hear all the time. So,
Yeah.
and Trib has mentioned it. I'm sure he's said it to the guys like, "Hey guys, this is our year. Like, this is our final year, most likely, all of us to
Mhm.
rock it." And so I see some people, which I think is stupid. I hate some people that say stuff like this. They'll be like, "Oh, this team's good, so just punch the ticket till April. Like, just kind of cruise until April." Like, as a fan, I think you should get excited for every month of hockey. There's ups
Yeah.
and downs. Like, the team could collapse. You never know. Like, they could
Mm.
start losing games left and right. Knock on wood. I think the journey to the cup is it started in October and
Yeah.
it ends in June. I don't think it. I don't think you should be kind of wishy-washy just because the team's good. I mean, are you gonna miss a game here and there? Sure, like, I get it, like, not that big of a deal, but I wouldn't, like, check out. I wouldn't. I
Yeah.
would I
That's
would
so
stay.
weird.
Yeah, it's weird. I would stay in tuned with everything because it's a lot. It's exciting. It's a lot to see, and unless something major happens in terms of injuries or player problems, it probably will be smooth sailing for the
Yeah.
most part, hopefully. So, yeah, I share your I don't know if sentiment's the right word, but I am excited.
I guess the optimism. We're
Yeah.
optimistic and also hopeful, and we have a lot of reasons to be. Is the fun thing, and I do like your points about the defense. Like as much as we've done good things and been good when we needed to, like Igor saved us a lot, which is again, it's a broken record. I mean, how
Yeah.
many times have we been saying that since we've had Igor? And I mean, that was our relationship with Hank too. He was the king for a reason, and we kind of made him need to be the king a lot more than he should have. And it is to this day still very saddening that we were never able to win it for him. So if we could win one for Igor and this core of players, I think that'd be huge. Again, like you pointed out, that this is kind of got to be the year. Not that next year, the year after, we're not going to be competitive, but it is a very real possibility that this roster is going to need some kind of retool this offseason, next offseason. That there's going to be a lot of moving pieces. There's going to be a lot of contracts. There's going to be people we can't re-sign. There's going to be people that we want to resign that we can't, people that we want to sign from free agency that we can't, people that we do end up signing because we got rid of other people. So I think there's going to be some mixing and matching and some changes. And so they have a really good point. This is hopefully the year. And the one thing I do like I just want to mention before we end here, and this is credit to Laviolette and the system that he's put in place. I really like that we're able to rotate guys in and out of that bottom six and that bottom pair defensively as well. That's something that we've seen. He's big matchup heavy, especially when we're at home. And actually, that's a reason that we don't see Rempe a ton. Particularly, we're not likely to see him in away games because Laviolette wants to have control of that matchup. He wants to know that
Mhm.
when Rempe's out there, it's against the line that gives him the best chance to be a physical presence and succeed and do things for this team that we need him to do. And so it's very encouraging that we're seeing, you know, Brodzinski hasn't played every game this year. Edstrom hasn't played every game this year. Rempe hasn't played every game this year. And yet we're still getting very valuable minutes and some production from our bottom six as well. I mean, that third line's carrying a lot of that, but the fourth line has been impressive defensively as well as a little bit of offensive numbers as well when we've kind of not expected it to be. And so I've loved seeing that. I think that's a credit to Laviolette and the system we have in place. And if we can keep that going, if we can kind of keep doing the same things and running this system, then I understand people wanting to coast to the April, but we're not coasting. We're going to enjoy the ride. I mean, that as a sports fan, would you not want to enjoy the season leading up to the cup? I mean, it's all about getting there, and then when you get there, you got to win it. It's a whole year-long thing. I mean, that's crazy to me. Like, just pack it in and wait till the playoffs. Like,
Yeah.
at that point, are you really like that big of a fan? Or you're just a fair weather fan at that point? No, like all you want to see is the wins and the playoffs.
Yeah, or maybe it's like the anticipation of seeing, like, okay, we know the team's good, like the
Mm.
82 games, like let's just see what we do in the playoffs. Which, I feel like if you're playing an NHL game, you would just do that, like you
Yeah,
would just simulate to the playoffs. But it's
yeah,
that's not. This team's grown. This team has had some camaraderie, and they've had a lot of trials to go through. I mean, if they beat the Panthers last year, do they beat the Oilers? I don't know. I mean, Connor
true.
McDavid forced the game 7, forced the team to go to game 7 and then was shut down himself. So maybe I don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
things would have been different. So
never know.
maybe we would have went to the cup and lost again. So
True.
it's tough to see. But yeah, I agree. Everything's looking pretty good. Um, it's nice not to have a lot to nitpick.
Yeah,
I'm sure that will change later on in the
mm,
season as things settle in. People get tired.
absolutely.
Hopefully, injuries don't pile up. But sports, it's a contact sport. It happens. Even in non-contact sports. But yeah, I think it's important to lock in. I think we've had some good coverage here. I think if the team keeps these metrics up with 5v5 play, and Igor doesn't have that random month where he collapses for whatever reason, or if he is going to have that, at least have it happen like when it doesn't matter, like
Yeah, I
I
feel like
don't
it's
know,
always in the
November or
spring.
something.
He
Yeah, it's
always
always
I
in
feel
the
like
spring,
I want to say he always hits it like March. Like
March,
March
April
is
ish.
it's
Yeah, he
always
kind of.
and then he like picks it up in the last few games of the year and we're like, "All right, sorry." But like
Yeah, it's been 2 years in a row he did that. I
if he
don't.
could not do that, that'd be like really great though.
Yeah, and if Quick can play good, he'll probably play against Anaheim. I'm assuming it's probably when they'll put Quick in. You know, 'cause
Yeah, I think just to give Igor that break in between that and the
yeah,
cap, the Panthers and the Caps. That's a good
yeah.
point.
So I think it won't really matter to do the Panthers one because people will know the outcome. But I guess to
Yeah.
close this out, yeah, we'll do our first time scores for the Anaheim and the Washington game. So I'll go first time score in Anaheim. I'm gonna go Kendra Miller. So I'm gonna go with
All right. Ooh, interesting. So I'm gonna
yeah,
so
just
let's see.
something
First time
fun.
score for the
Yeah,
Ducks. So I'm gonna type this out because we haven't been keeping track. I think it'd be interesting. Not we don't have to do some like stats thing, but like
yeah, no,
I'd
good
like to
idea.
know because I don't even remember what we said like last time. I'd have to go back and like listen. All right, first
Yeah,
time score, Ducks. Let's see. You got Miller. Okay. Which I like. I think that's a very fun pick and honestly not a bad shout. He's been pretty offensively sound this year.
hmm
I'm gonna go laugh. I'm gonna go
okay,
laugh. I
all
think
right.
he's gonna come out firing.
And
Who's your
then
scorer in the Caps?
Capitals, tough. I'm gonna go Chris Kreider.
Oh, took mine. You know what?
Yeah,
Mika plays really well against the Caps historically. Not
and the
really.
Flyers.
This past playoffs was subpar, but historically in the regular season, I mean, the Caps was his 5 point game. So, or was it 5 goals,
I think it
not
was
5 points?
wasn't that the Flyers or was that Caps?
It was Caps.
Oh, I thought it was
Well,
the
he
Flyers.
probably also he also balled against the Flyers. I know what game you're thinking of, but that
Yeah.
nonetheless, I'm going Mika.
Okay. All right. Can't wait for us to be both entirely wrong.
Yeah,
Should
watch
be
it be
good.
like Sam Carrick. Remember, bro?
Hey, I jokingly said
I
first
know, and he literally
goaler.
scored the first goal of our hopefully Stanley Cup
It's
winning season. It's kind of funny in
yeah, no,
retrospective.
it's crazy. No Barkley Goodrow.
Yeah.
It's weird not seeing him on the team. I'm glad, but like it's
Yeah, good riddance.
yeah, but it's just
Like,
kind of weird. Like he had a very noticeable atmosphere.
yeah.
Not on the ice, I'll tell you that much. But yeah. So I think with that, not much else to say.
Yeah.
Say we do every week. We will have at minimum one episode. But as Matt said earlier, like the way the scheduling works, it just doesn't
Mhm.
make sense to do 2 episodes in 1 week if we're just going to be repeating ourselves. I
Yeah,
don't think people want their time wasted. I think everyone's time is very valuable, and we really
absolutely.
appreciate you taking your time to listen to this. So I think next week might be another Friday episode, just looking at it, because then we'd have 3
Yeah,
games to cover.
just like I was saying, also just the schedule of how everything is like working out. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think November will be a different story because there's a bunch of, like, back-to-back games on a Saturday, Sunday type
Yeah.
thing, so
I say our schedule is almost a little more spread out to start. Like I said, I think
yeah.
like you said in November, it kind of makes a little bit more sense. It's a little bit more compact. So we'll definitely have all sorts of coverage for you guys, probably 2 episodes a week on those games. But of course, we'll keep you guys posted. And I guess I'll just start rolling us out of this one. I think you had started us gracefully, and I'll just get my little 2 cents in here before you end us. Just thank you all for the continued support, and like John said, all the time and energy and effort that you put into this. We really appreciate it. We put a lot of time and energy and effort into this, and so we just hope that you guys enjoy it and that you like to listen to the coverage and everything that we have to say. Whether you love us, hate us, agree with us, disagree with us, whatever it is, we're happy just to get this out to you guys and start a conversation, and we hope that you enjoy it. So thank you all for another awesome episode here. It's the last you'll hear me on this one, and John will close out.
Thank you again. Love you all. Be sure to check us out every week. Check us out in the socials, BlueBuzz26. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on Twitter or X, BlueBuzz26. Be sure to send us any messages. We love interaction, love talking to all of you, and appreciate all the continued love and support. So have a great rest of your week, and we will catch you on the next episode.